G'day, I'm Travers. Thanks for watching my channel, and I hope the videos I produce do help you in your drawing journey for wherever you want to end up. But in this video, I want to give you just 5 quick tips to how I believe you can make the most of the time you put into watching my videos. And the first tip is that sometimes I start my videos speaking a few points to camera, and sometimes I start directly camera down on the paper with a drawing. And if I start in how I think of as face to camera, such as we're doing now, my first tip is please resist the urge to skip forward to where I actually start the drawing part, as if somehow that's more relevant to improving your drawing. If I speak to camera before I start drawing, then it's because there's something I want to say that I think will actually help with the understanding of the topic or of the drawing process of that video. Skipping straight to the drawing will save a few minutes, but it may mean you're not then in a position to get the best out of the drawing part of the video. I try not to talk on unless I've actually got something I think is worth saying. And my second point is put up, if necessary, with my repetition of certain points within the video. As a trained teacher, I'm very aware of the importance in repetition in learning. It's an important part of retaining information after the lesson is finished. What we're able to understand actually in the lesson is not the same as what we're able to remember after the lesson. And so just because we're thinking, yeah, I've got this, doesn't mean that 5 minutes after the video ends, we could actually explain it to someone else or even repeat it in our own mind to ourselves. So if I'm saying something and you're thinking, oh yeah, he's already said this, that's probably true. But if you can stay engaged with what I'm saying at that point, it may mean the difference between actually remembering that point after the video ends or it receding into some sort of vague swirl of information. And believe it or not, I actually edit out even more repetition during the editing. And my third tip, and this one's really important, is don't draw along with me. None of my videos are designed from my point of view for you to draw along at the same time that you're watching them. Because if you're drawing along with me, your focus is going to be on my lines. And what I'm always wanting you to focus on is my thought processes, the way I'm observing my reference, and then working out how to interpret that into line on my paper. Because what I want you to be able to do at the end of the video is to be able to observe the subject in the same way I do, to think about the subject in the same way I think about it, to make choices about how will I represent this now on the paper the way I make choices, and then to do that. And if you're focused on the actual lines, if you're focused on the end result of all of that processing, then you're not going to be in a position to be understanding and absorbing what the processes are that enable me to put those lines on the paper. Because you won't learn to draw like me by copying my lines. You'll learn to draw like me by understanding how I observe my reference and the decisions that I make in putting lines on paper. But of course, if you learn that creative thinking and observing process, you won't draw like me. Even better, you'll draw like you. You'll develop your own style, informed though by the sorts of thinking and processes and observations that I use. But my fourth point is, if possible, when you do watch my videos, have a pen and paper or pencil and paper available, and after the video, spend 5 or 10 minutes just playing around with lines, playing around with some sort of concept that was in the video. This follows on from the idea of repetition. If you're able to repeat some of the principles immediately after hearing them, your ability to retain them will be greatly increased. And because actually using pen and paper increases the number of senses that we're engaging with this information with, there's bonus retention as well from that. I'm not talking about actually repeating the exercise, doing the drawing that was the subject of the video. I'm literally talking about a 5-10 minute max drawing exercise where you might just focus drawing lines in a perspective pattern that the video talked about. or do some hatching to represent foliage on leaves, or to work at some lines and marks that suggest a brick texture or a cobblestone effect. Whatever the video was about, just a few lines in a few minutes to put into practice what was talked about. And my fifth and final point is, where possible, and hopefully at least some of the time, use the reference photo for my lesson, which I post on my channel community page, and have a go drawing that scene yourself with the focus of the lesson in mind. And this is just as much this fifth point as to actually draw the photo, as to actually draw from the reference. And that's when you do draw from the reference photo, don't just draw it the way you would draw any drawing from a photo reference. If you want to maximize the benefit of the lesson, then when you draw the reference photo of the lesson, seek to apply the thinking, the techniques of the lesson. Because if you simply use the photo as another photo reference to draw, but draw it the same way you would draw any photo that you came across that you wanted to draw, then it's going to be a case of the old saying, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Unless we actively make an effort to introduce some new thinking, some new technique into our drawing, some new way of representing what we're wanting to create on our paper, then our drawing will end up the same as all our other drawings, for all the same reasons that it's always ended up in that place in the past. So it's only by making the effort, by working hard to push ourselves out of the comfort zone that's resulted in our drawing the way we have, and to in some way think, observe and draw in a new, and that will almost always mean risky way. But it's always worth the risk. We're not producing artworks in all of this, we're learning. This is a learning process, it's an educational process. And we don't start at the end. We're doing this so that in the future we can produce the artworks that we have within us. So, having got these 5 tips, I hope you now go and look at another one of my videos and benefit from them. And I'll stop this before the approaching train whizzes by my back fence. I'm Travers. I'll see you next time. Bye.